Thank you, councillors. Thank you, everybody. What a great turnout. Welcome to the Casterton meeting for the Glenelg Shire for April 2026. Come in, please. Have a seat. Thank you. Thank you. On behalf of the Glenelg Shire, I respectfully acknowledge the traditional lands and waters of the Gunditjmara people and their respective cultural heritage. I acknowledge the elders past and present here at today's gathering and through them to all Aboriginal people. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people provide an important contribution to Australia's cultural heritage and identity. We respectfully acknowledge the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community living throughout Glenelg and the contribution that they make to the Glenelg Shire's prosperity and well-being. So welcome one and all, but as those present in the gallery today, by attending the public meeting of Council, you are consenting to your image, voice and any commentary being recorded and published. Council meetings may be live streamed and the Chief Executive Officer will enable a copy of those recordings to the public. Councillors, there are no apologies for this evening's meeting, and I'm now looking for confirmation of the minutes of the last council meeting. Councillor McDonald.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'll move that the minutes of the council meeting held on the 24th of March 2026 as circulated be confirmed.
Councillor Noski, second. Thank you. No discussion. Thank you. I'll put it to the vote. The motion has been moved by Councillor McDonald and second by Councillor Noski. Those in favour? Carried. Councillors, 5.2 is the record of councillor briefings. There is a recommendation there on page 4. Councillor McDonald.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'll move that the council receives the record of the councillor briefing held on the 24th of March 2026, the 31st of March 2026, the 8th of April 2026, the 14th of April 2026 and the 21st of April 2026.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Second, Councillor Carr.
Happy to second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any conversation? Any discussion? No. I'll put the motion as moved by Councillor McDonald and second by Councillor Carr. Those in favour? Carried. Councillors, item number 6, declarations of conflict of interest. Do we have any declarations of conflict of interest for tonight's meeting? Councillor Pepper.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yes, I've got in the management reports on page 28, the community grants, I've got to declare an interest there because I'm a member of the Tara Creek Club. Thank you.
Of course you are.
Yes.
Have been for a long time.
For quite a considerable time, yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Pepper. Councillor Angelino.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yeah, our conflict of interest in the community awards, there's a relationship with a family member. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Angelino. Councillor Carr.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. I declare a conflict of interest with agenda item 12.1, the contract for the Benwick Street roundabout. One of the tenderers is the company is owned by close family members. Agenda item 12.4, Madam Mayor, the Glenelg Shire Community Awards. One of the nominees has a close family connection.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Are there any further conflicts of interest to be declared on tonight's agenda? Councillors, if you, during the course of the meeting, believe that you may have a conflict that you haven't declared, please let me know immediately. We'll move on to reports. The item 7 is the councillor activity reports. We'll start with the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Jowett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It was a busy month again. One of the highlights for me was the visit that we did to the Woomera Mallee waste facility, where we got to see where the bins were being constructed, and we got to see a load of waste being dropped off, and we're able to see what kind of contamination has been happening to the waste, the wrong things that people have been putting into the bins. The visit to Bayview College was another standout for me, where both myself, the Mayor and Councillor Angelino had the opportunity to speak before the class of children on the role of council. And the staff recognition event that was held in Hayward on the 19th was a great opportunity to meet members of the staff that we would not normally run into. Thank you.
Who won the competition to put the photo bin together?
It was Councillor Angelino.
Well done, Councillor
By
Angelina.
a second
How
or
long
two.
did it take you? 28 seconds?
Oh, I think it was less than that.
Less
Wasn't
than
done.
that. Under 10, wasn't it?
it?
Okay, who's next? Councillor Angelina, we'll move to you.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Down here. Yeah, this month was we had a cruise ship come in, and that was the last one. I think the next one comes in on the Christmas Day or Christmas Eve,
Just before, yeah.
just before Santa gets here. On the 6th of the 3rd, I went to the Women's International event in Portland, and we had some speakers. Karen Mayer was there, and actually another lady who was in the had a great history, or a history that was relevant today. She actually grew up in Iran and left before the change of the present regime, and she explained how life has changed for her. Also, we went to the, there was a funeral of Laura Bell in Hayward, which was attended by, I've never seen a funeral with so many people there, the community, and that was a great sort of event for her passing, and it showed that the community were so much behind all that she did. Also in Portland, Seymour, I've attended quite a few events. There was the one up here, the Celtic Festival. I think they come up here, and then the next night they come to Portland. And Shannon, that guy over there, and Ruby do a great job. And the depth of the talent that comes out to regional areas now is such great. We've had Josh Pike, we've had singers, we've had. And you just see the depth and enjoyment that people get by going out to these regional events in Seymour, whether it's here or wherever. So, no, another good month, and hopefully we'll have some more next month. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Carr, did you want to add anything from your agenda? Councillor Noski?
No, thanks, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Pepper?
As tabled, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Pepper. Councillor McDonald?
I've just got one, Madam Mayor. The Full Fathom 5 sculpture acquisition opening was a fabulous exhibition of work, a big body of work done by Carmel Wallace, who's a local artist, and it was the story of the Admella disaster. The acquisition was actually a bronze piece, a contemporary interpretation of the life vest that saved some of those lives on that tragedy. So that was a great night. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors obviously attended a number of things, and obviously the cruise ship is fantastic for our tourism in the Glenelg Shire. Not only does it bring people in, but it also, on the vessel itself, for cruise ships, so we look forward to the next one. A lot of statutory meetings went to. The women's luncheon was fantastic, organised by Empower. It was really great to be a guest speaker there, and the GP that from Dweck is quite a remarkable woman, and her story is quite compelling. Yep, the waste management facility was interesting, just to work out and see what comes out of the back of the garbage trucks, and how much education we still need to do to make sure you get it in the right bin. Because if we don't start getting things in the right bin, it's going to keep costing us a fortune for waste management. Bayview College, annually we do a session with them about local government and what local government is all about for their community. So fantastic to have the students, and yeah, one of them wants to be a politician, so that will be interesting to see what happens there. Lots of other things that are happening throughout the month, but March was a very busy month, councillors, and I thank you for your attendance at so many different community events and all the different meetings that you attend, so thank you very much. There is a recommendation there on page 10 that the activity reports be received. Is somebody going to move? Councillor McDonald.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I move that Council notes the Council activity reports for the 1st of March 2026 to the 31st of March 2026.
Thank you. Councillor Angelino.
I'll second that, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Anything to say, Councillor?
Nothing.
Nothing. The motion has been moved by Councillor McDonald and seconded by Councillor Angelino. Those in favour? Carried. There are no notices of motion for tonight's meeting, councillors. So we'll move on to management reports.
Madam Mayor, can I just make a procedural motion?
Thank you.
I think we need to deal with 9.8, the Strathdowney drainage scheme item prior to the draft budget, please.
You are absolutely correct. So you're moving that we move that before the budget, which is 9.5.
9.5.
Councillor Carr, you second?
Yeah, happy to second, Madam Mayor.
Okay, councillors, you're clear what we're doing. We're moving those agenda items around. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. The management reports. Thank you, Councillor McDonald. 9.1, Councillors' Quarterly Expenditure Report. Tabled there. Councillor Noski.
Happy to move the motion as it's written on page 14, Madam Mayor, that Council receives the Councillors' Quarterly Expenditure Report for the period 1 January 26 to 31 March 26.
Thank you, Councillor Noski. Councillor Jowett.
I'd like to second that motion.
Any commentary, Councillor Noski?
No thanks, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Jowett?
Not required.
Okay. The motion has been moved by Councillor Noski and seconded by Councillor Jowett. Those in favour? That is carried. 9.2 is the Quarterly Finance Report. Mr Moyne.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report presents the quarterly finance report for the period ending 31st of March 2026. The report provides a snapshot of the Council's financial performance, outlining our year-to-date position, forecast end-of-year result, capital works progress and financial indicators. The current position reflects a range of timing factors, particularly in relation to grant income and capital project delivery. Expenditure remains managed. Council's balance sheet is positioned well, and the report outlines focus areas for the final quarter of the year. This includes a focus on the capital delivery program, managing current funded projects moving into next financial year, and continuing to maintain a targeted financial approach in the current economic environment. Recommendations provided before you.
Thank you, Mr Moyne. Councillors, are there any questions on this item? Councillor Carr.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, I think it's important to ask. In terms of income, Madam Mayor, we adopted a budget of 68.5 million, and the reforecast is 59.4 million. I think it's worth
Asking the
getting
question.
more explanation in relation to why that has occurred.
Mr Moyne.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. The primary driver between the change there is the timing of the annual financial assistance grants that come through the Victorian Grants Commission. They came in before the start of the financial year, so that's an amount of about $4-5 million in terms of annual funding, so that reduces Council's income for the current financial year.
Thank you.
No worries. Anything further, Councillor Carr? Councillor Carr.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. I noticed on the statement of capital works, under the upgrades section, the local roads and community infrastructure program, it's at 88% complete. There was a couple of projects in Casterton Little Athletics and the Casterton Water Tower and Railway Precinct. Can we get more of an explanation on those, please?
It's also the Henty Street toilets.
I'll focus on the Casterton project.
Okay, you focus on the Casterton. Mr Moyne.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There's been a focus on project delivery over the last 12 months, including the completion of the Casterton Railway Precinct and the Cricket Club and Little Athletics Club Pavilion refurbishment. Both projects are at project completion stage with some minor follow-up with some defects and maintenance aspects. Both of those projects have been funded through the Commonwealth Local Roads and Community Infrastructure Program, so positive to wrap up that program.
And we're nearly there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Any further questions? Councillors? If there's no further questions, there is a recommendation on page 18. Councillor Carr.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. I'm happy to move the recommendation that Council 1 receives the quarterly financial report for the period ending 31st of March 2026. 2, notes the forecast full-year financial position for the 25-26 financial year.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Seconder, please, Councillor Jowett. Councillor Carr, did you want to speak to that?
No, I think everything's going quite well, Madam Mayor. It's in terms of our expenses, they're in control. year to date at 72%. We're 3/4 of the way through the year, and we're ahead in terms of the income that's come in year to date. It'd be nice to know when this financial assistance grant was coming in, but we deal with this every year, so what it'll be, it'll come in when it comes in. It's either the week before June 30 or the week after,
As long as it comes in.
as long as it comes in.
Councillor Bell, anything?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. These figures are heading in the right direction from where we were a few years ago. I'm quite happy with the direction that we're heading.
Thank you. Anything further, councillors? If not, the motion was moved by Councillor Carr and seconded by Councillor Jowett. Those in favour? That is carried. 9.3 is the S6 instrument of delegation, council to members of staff. Mr. Moyne.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report relates to the regular review of Council's instruments of delegation to members of staff. Delegations are an important governance tool to allow Council to efficiently operate and function whilst ensuring compliance with current legislation. This update reflects the latest legal review provided to Council and changes to the S6 instrument of delegation from Council to staff directly, and supports good governance practices. The recommendations provided before you.
Thank you, Mr. Moyne. Councillors, are there any questions, please? No questions? Councillor Carr.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. I'm happy to move the recommendation that Council 1 approves the instrument of delegation Council to members of staff S6, which will come into force upon this resolution being made and is signed by the CEO and the Mayor. 2, notes that upon coming into force of the above instrument, all previous delegations to member of Council staff other than the CEO are revoked.
Councillor Noski.
Second the motion, thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Carr.
Yeah, it's 171 pages, Madam Mayor. I didn't count how many. There's about 5 a page, so there's quite a few of them. It's quite procedural, and we need it in terms of being able to govern for our community.
Thank you. Councillor Noski, any commentary?
No.
Thank you. The motion has been put by Councillor Carr and seconded by Councillor Noski. Those in favour? That is carried. Councillors, we move on to 9.4, contracts that have been approved by the CEO's delegation between the 1st of December 2025 and the 31st of March 26. Mr. Moyne.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report exactly provides information on that in relation to contracts
Awarded under the CEO delegated authority between that time frame. Regular reporting of delegated contracts promotes accountability and ensures Council remains informed of procurement activity undertaken within the organisation and consistent with our procurement policy. For the reporting period, only one contract was entered into in relation to the landfill capping monitoring contract. The recommendation again is provided before you.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions on that? No?
Happy to
Councillor
move the
Noski?
motion, no, Madam Mayor.
As tabled.
Happy to move the motion that Council receives the report detailing contracts awarded under the CEO delegation for the period 1 December 25 to 31 March 26, and 2, notes that all contracts awarded were in accordance with the CEO's delegated authority and the Council procurement policy.
Thank you. Councillor Angelino.
I'll second that. Thank you,
Thank
Madam
you.
Mayor.
Councillor Noski.
Yeah, I think, Madam Mayor, it's worth pointing out that this report, I think it's the first time it's come to Council in my time on Council, and that's an improvement in terms of the Councillors' understanding of what's going on in the organisation. And we give delegations to staff, but I've always thought that it was important that we know what those delegations are being used for, and having this report come to us every quarter, I think is a really good step forward for the Council in terms of its accountability to the community.
Thank you. If there's nothing further, councillors, the motion has been put by Councillor Noski and seconded by Councillor Angelino. Those in favour? That is carried. Councillors, we move on to 9.5, which is the Glenelg Shire draft budget.
New 9.5.
That's why I've got you all there, just to keep me in check.
Yeah.
Just to keep me in check. Let's do the Strathdownie drainage scheme first. Mr. Moyne again.
Thank you very
you're
much.
quick.
This report seeks Council's approval to commence a consultation process regarding the proposed special charge associated with the Strathdownie drainage scheme for the upcoming financial year. The charge has been requested by the Drainage Advisory Committee to support ongoing maintenance and the long-term functioning of the scheme itself. The decision seeks to commence the consultation process with affected landowners able to provide submissions before any final decision comes back to Council in June, aligned with the budget. Again, the recommendations provided before you.
Thank you. Councillor Carr.
I'm happy to move it, Madam Mayor, if we're ready for that.
I am ready for that, unless there's any questions from any other councillor.
Yeah, look, I'm happy to move the entire recommendation on page 36 and page 37.
Yep.
There's 8 dot points there, Madam Mayor, so I won't read them out.
Thank you.
Second the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Noski. Councillor Carr.
No comment. It's well explained by Mr. Moore.
Yep, thank you. We'll put the motion, which was moved by Councillor Carr and seconded by Councillor Noski. Those in favour? That's carried. Okay, can I go to 9.5 now, Mr. Moore? Happy with me to
Madam
do
Mayor,
that?
you're chairing.
Happy for me to do that? Okay, thank you. The draft budget and draft fees and charges. Mr. Moyne, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report presents the draft budget for 2026-27 financial year, including the proposed fees and charges schedule for consideration and release to the public for public exhibition. The draft budget represents a key year of consolidation for Council and has been developed in alignment with the strategic direction of the long-term financial plan. That plan recognises the need for Council to improve financial sustainability through a targeted budgeting approach and delivering savings across the organisation. The draft budget reflects that approach with a strong focus on maintaining our service delivery whilst carefully managing expenditure and prioritising investment. The budget includes an additional $1 million uplift in asset renewal expenditure to strengthen Council's existing asset base, along with $500,000 proposed for new local projects informed through a recent community engagement process undertaken earlier this year. While the budget seeks to provide short-term financial focus for Council, it also looks to the future through increased investment in project and asset planning, helping to build a stronger pipeline of future works and opportunities for Council and the community. It also seeks to maintain investment in key areas such as roads, community facilities, essential services and community programs that support towns and community abroad. The budget has also been prepared in the context of continued economic uncertainty and current cost pressures, including the fuel situation, which is obviously impacting Council, but also businesses and households across the Shire. Importantly, this is the draft budget, and subject to the decision tonight, it's proposed to be released for public exhibition and may be further refined following community feedback, ongoing Council review, and as more information comes to hand as the economic landscape continues to evolve. The draft budget also includes the fees and charges which have been reviewed to ensure user equity and fee accuracy based on services and Council provides. The recommendations provided before you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Moyne. Councillors, questions, please. Councillor Carr.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. I'll start off with a question about fees and charges. I noticed that for the dog registration fee, we're at $150 and a cat registration fee is $120. Is there any reason, Madam Mayor, as to why they're different and why they've been increased by so
One's a
much?
cat, one's a dog.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There is some.
Can you answer that?
I can try.
You can try.
There is some reasoning behind that. Obviously, we have full fees and reduced fees for cats and dogs, reduced being for desexed animals themselves, but largely the increased dog fee is based on increased management activity and costs associated with dogs themselves, but also reduced cat fees to encourage further registration across the Shire. We know anecdotally and based on information that there's a lot of wild and stray cats out there that aren't registered, so we're trying to promote further cat registrations across the Shire.
Thank you.
Does that sound okay?
Fine.
Further questions?
Yeah, I can go.
Yeah, keep going.
The first question, Madam Mayor, this is in relation to the draft budget. It relates to the evaluations of our properties as ratepayers. In terms of the percentage increases which have been applied at this point in time to general rates and prime production and commercial properties, what evaluations are being used in the draft budget for this draft budget?
Mr. Moyne.
Mayor, through you, we don't currently have the up-to-date valuations for the draft budget itself at the moment. The draft budget's been prepared on 25-26 valuations with updated information, and as the annual valuations come through the organisation and to staff, the budget will be updated to ensure that the rate allocations are reflective of valuation amounts across the different rating categories.
And that would normally happen around early May?
I believe the information's literally coming through as we speak at the moment, so we need some time to process that, and then we'll work that through the budget before it comes back to council.
Yep. Councillor Carr?
Keep going.
I can ask another question. Thanks, Madam Mayor. So on page 6, I noticed that we've got a free green waste initiative income of 75 and expenditure of 75, and so the council's just gone through a transition where it's introduced FOGO for its people that have bins. What's the context behind leaving that in this budget at this point in time?
Mr. Moyne.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Typically, in the past, council's provided a free green waste period for fire preparedness, and at the start of the fire danger season to encourage property owners to manage their properties and remove vegetation and dispose of that green waste through our transfer stations. Obviously, we've just rolled out green bins across the Shire, and we're literally, or we're still in the process of getting information, looking at how the service is being rolled out, and working through a transition with community itself. So the plan at this point is to maintain the free green waste drop-off service at least for next financial year, enabling us to do a review, and then we'll look to make some decisions or brief councillors moving ahead for the following financial year.
Thank you, Mr. Moyne. You happy with that, Councillor Carr?
Yeah.
That's an interesting one.
I think it's an opportunity for us, Madam Mayor. It'll be an opportunity for us.
It will be.
Page 12, Madam Mayor, Children's Services. We've done a lot of work in this space over the years. It's now budgeted to be $711,000 out of pocket, so funded by the ratepayer next year. 2 years ago it was $269,000. We endorsed a plan as council to try and get that back to zero about 24 months ago. Is there any explanation why we believe it's going to be $711,000 out of pocket?
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Jackson.
Thank you. Good question, Councillor Carr. Thank you. Look, predominantly the children's services budget's been impacted by a combination of different factors. Probably the most relevant one in this case is the reduction of before and after school care at KMC. That's provided or cost an increase in income or a loss in income, sorry, of about $237,000. That is impacted predominantly with a range of things, but above all, at the critical shortage at the moment within the childcare sector and an inability to attract new staff into Casterton, as well as other areas that's right across, not just across Glenelg Shire, but it's certainly felt right across the state, but particularly down in Glenelg Shire. We've had different budgets reductions right across the sector as well, income reductions. We've tried to meet a lot of that with reductions in expenses as well, but obviously we can't get to that level. We still need to provide that service delivery. But yeah, there has definitely been a shortage in staff that's impacted, as well as a reduction in service, which some of those services, provide opportunity for income. Not all services provide that level of income, and we haven't been able to manage that.
Thank you.
Councillor Carr?
Page 16, Madam Mayor. We're forecasting to spend $436,000 less on road maintenance. Can we get an explanation for that, please?
Thank you, Councillor Carr.
Yeah, I can handle that, Madam Mayor.
Mr. Moy?
So that doesn't necessarily, the reduced expenditure doesn't necessarily reflect a decrease in service provision across the Shire. So we're looking at bringing more services in-house. So examples of that are street sweeping. Council's purchased its own street sweeper, so we're providing that service at a lower cost to council and ultimately the community. We've also purchased a range of heavy plant and machinery items to help with vegetation management, roadside grading, shoulders, drainage and the like. So we're looking at utilising our staff levels and undertaking those works in-house, which fortunately for council reduces overall service cost and maintenance for the organisation. And that will be a targeted or focused approach for the organisation moving ahead to look at where we can get more efficiency and, I guess, bang for buck for the organisation.
That's good. Happy with that?
Happy to move the recommendation. Sorry, I probably want to go do that.
Have you got a question, Councillor Noski?
Yeah, in relation to Councillor Carr's question about valuations, and I haven't seen it happen in the past, but you're talking about getting an update to valuations. If, for example, the valuations come in and there is a general increase across the total valuation of the Shire of 2 or 3%, will, as an administrative thing in the final budget that comes for adoption in June, will the rate in the dollar be recalculated to allow for that larger valuation?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, the answer to that is yes. So council is limited to a rate cap in terms of the increase in rate revenue that we can charge on to the ratepayer. So where valuations go up, that will obviously have an impact in that, but that will need to be worked through that process. So we are restricted in terms of raising rate revenue in alignment with the rate cap, which is set at 2.75% for next financial year. So we'll be working through that as we prepare the final version of the budget.
Okay. Further questions? Councillor Carr?
No, I'm happy to move.
If there are no other, I have some other questions.
Okay, that's what I'm asking. Any other questions?
Yeah. So first, I would like to congratulate the staff on the way this budget has been put together. I think the process has been better than I have observed as a councillor last year and as I observed as someone looking in from the outside in previous years.
Do you have a question, Councillor?
Yes, I do. Yeah, the problem for me though is that the budget still includes the collection of an extra $3.5 million, for now for the 5th year in a row, on top of which was first brought in June of 2022 by the then council. I have questions. So, as part of our role as council, the CEO went into a detailed study into the background of the rating history around what was used to justify that increase in 2022, and I have some questions of the CEO about her findings in that study.
So tonight is about the budget, Councillor Noski.
Yeah.
We've had a number of meetings around the development of the budget.
Yep.
And the assessment of the 3.5 million, you know that. So tonight on the table is the draft budget and the draft fees and charges.
Madam,
do you have a question in relation to the draft budget?
This is in relation to the draft budget, Madam Mayor. We have, as you repeatedly tell us as councillors at the start, in fact at the start of every briefing, we can't make decisions about major issues in those briefings. We've had one meeting about the 3.5 issue, the 3.5 million issue, in March of this year, after we finally got the CEO's report, and for council to decide whether or not we stop collecting 3.5 million, which that report, in my view, indicated that we probably should, it has to be done at a meeting, and it is an integral part of this budget. So I think asking for clarification about the justification for that collection in 2022, which is carried through into this budget, and which now makes 17.5 million that will be taken out of ratepayers of this Shire over the last 5 years if we keep it in this budget. I think it's an important part of the discussion around this draft budget.
Councillor Noski, I'm waiting for a question.
My question...
So, Councillor Noski, in the 18 months and more so in the whole development of all of our budget meetings, which have continued Tuesday night after Tuesday night, there was ample opportunity to discuss that confidential report that was done by the CEO. So please be careful in your discussion, because it remains a confidential report. You know that. You know that.
I know. And I will not be asking the CEO about...
Councillor Noski, you have had every opportunity over the last few months on a Tuesday night at all of our budget meetings to have these discussions. We have had ample opportunity. We have developed this budget over months and months and months. And at every stage there has been opportunity for councillors to ask any questions that they wish. So there has been plenty of opportunity for you to further pursue the $3.5 million. Every opportunity has been given to every councillor. Am I correct, councillors? Every meeting, every Tuesday night we meet. Is there anything further you wish to discuss? Anything to bring up? This draft budget and the draft fees and charges have been developed from those discussions. It didn't happen overnight.
Correct, Madam Mayor.
Correct.
But
so you've had every opportunity to have that discussion. I'm waiting for a question, and I'm going to warn you, that report is a confidential report, so please be careful what information you release publicly.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Are you clear?
Yeah.
Thank you. What is the question that you have?
My first question of the CEO is that, having researched the rating information over the past 18 months, in your opinion, did Council introduce a rebate scheme that reduced its total rate revenue in 2010-11 by the primary production land rebate amount, as claimed in the... That is not... I'm asking for an
there is a
opinion
point
on
of
a
order,
public document.
Councillor Noski, there's a point of order, please.
I don't believe this is directly related to this draft budget that we are discussing here tonight.
Councillor Noski, you direct the question through me, not to the CEO. As I've said, you are now asking questions about the 3.5 million when you've had every Tuesday to bring this matter up in the councillor group to develop this draft budget. The item we have on our agenda is the draft budget for 2026-27, and we have the draft fees and charges report. Do you have a question in relation to the draft budget or the fees and charges?
Well, my question is, why are we continuing to include the $3.5 million that was first introduced as an extra revenue collection in 2022?
As I said, you've had months to ask that. It's included in here. Thank you. Are there any further questions in relation to the draft budget and the draft fees and charges as tabled on tonight's agenda?
In that case, Madam Mayor, if there are none, I'd like to move an amended recommendation.
Thank you. Can you wait? Councillor Carr, you've already indicated.
I'd like to move the recommendation, Madam Mayor, if that's okay.
Right, councillors, please, if you could just give me a moment. Councillor Carr's already indicated he's moving the motion previously, so 1, 2, whatever, but I'm going to go with the first. But can I just have a moment, councillors, to talk to the draft budget and the fees and charges prior to me putting this to a motion? Thank you, councillors. and this is, I will seek obviously a mover and a seconder, but I do want to briefly address you as my councillor group. I want to acknowledge the considerable work that has been done into carefully reviewing the financial and the governance position of this council. Councillor Noski,
Thank you.
please show respect to your fellow members. I will say it again. I want to acknowledge the considerable work that has gone into the careful reviewing of the financial and governance position of this council. Because it is essential that decisions of council rely upon lawful, sound, and are in the best interest of our community. This councillor group has been together for 18 months. And in that time, we have worked together on the ideas put forward as part of our individual election campaigns. This also reflected an important commitment made during the election period, particularly by Councillor John Pepper and Councillor Noski. Those past decisions were properly examined. They wanted the past decisions to be properly examined, and that this council work would then build on our sound foundation. I thank them for bringing forward their concerns and being part of the constructive and supportive conversations over the recent period. The work and implications have not been treated lightly. Considerable effort has gone into assuring that the position before us has been carefully tested and is understood. This budget and the previously adopted long-term financial plan have been constructed with that work in mind. Setting the budget is a key time of the year for council. It's when you get to reflect on what you set out to do and think about what you need to happen in the incoming years. Tonight's budget has been built from strong financial bases set down in a long-term financial plan, with rigorous targets for the organisation to meet. The truth is, decisions made in the past do not remain confined to the past. They shape the financial position we inherit today. They influence our current and future capacity to deliver services, maintain infrastructure, and meet the expectations of our community that we serve against a backdrop of rising cost of living for us as a council and for our community that we serve. Above all, the budget sets the process. It's about stewardship. It's about ensuring community funds are managed responsibly, that the foundations of our decision-making are sound, and that council remains in a position to continue delivering services and value for our community, both now and into the future. So as we consider tonight's budget, with its many recommendations about rates, fees and charges, income and expenditure, we do so with a clear understanding that responsible governance requires more than responding to the present moment. It requires us to ensure that the path ahead protects council's ability to deliver for its community into perpetuity. I thank you. Councillor Carr, you've already indicated you're going to move the motion. I'll leave it to you to move that motion.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move the
Councillor Pepper?
In regards of what Councillor Noski's raising though, like, tell me in the governance, like he wants to, he's asking and he's looking at something else. Now, wouldn't he be allowed to follow that through? Like instead of overriding him and moving straight to Councillor Carr to move the motion because he... Councillor
Pepper, I'll say the same to you as I've said to Councillor Noski. Over a long period of weeks and months, we have discussed this budget. You've been a part of those briefing sessions, have you not?
Yes.
At the appropriate time is to bring up those things that you want to see within the budget. The paper before us tonight is the draft decision paper that we've come to as a council. after all of those meetings, I opened the questions for councillors. The draft budget is on the table. The questions around, and I'm assuming you're going to go to the 3.5 million as well. All of that time that we had to develop our budget is the time and the place to put forward your own opinions on what you want in the budget. To come here tonight and start reforming a budget, we have a draft budget to go out for community consultation. Councillor Pepper.
Madam Mayor, with the greatest of respect,
Yes.
at those briefing sessions, I have been indicating that I want the 3.5. I've been saying that, but as has already been said by Councillor Noski, there can be no decisions made at a briefing session. And we have discussed it, and it has been brought up, and I've brought it up at nearly every briefing session.
Yes. What
So
solution,
it has been
solution have you put forward at the table, Councillor Pepper?
that I want it removed.
That's fine, but removing it is one thing, but the mechanism of actually removing 3.5 million from the budget, you need to tell me, are you going to exclude library services or childcare, or where's the 3.5 million coming from?
I don't believe that we have to do that.
Okay, that's fine.
And I don't understand why Councillor Noski can't continue on with what he wants to continue on. I don't understand how he's getting, I hesitate to say, like railroaded straight to Councillor
I'm not
Carr.
railroading him, I'm asking questions on the budget that is tabled in the agenda tonight. Councillor Noski is trying to ask questions on totally another matter. We have spent months developing this particular document. I'm going to ask Councillor Carr.
But he hasn't, sorry Madam Mayor, but hasn't...
Thank you, Councillor Pepper. Unless you have a question about the draft budget or the draft fees and charges, I'm going to move forward. Councillor Carr.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'm happy to move the recommendation 1, 2 and 3 on page 27 in its entirety.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Councillor McDonald.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'd like to second that motion.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Councillor Carr, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. Look, this budget, it is a draft budget and it will go out for community consultation, and that'll be the opportunity for people to provide feedback in relation to what they want in or out. Just remember though, if you want something in, you've got to take something out, and if you want something out, that's difficult. Anyway, the budget does support responsible management of council assets. There is a reduction in expenditure, and the councillor group, Madam Mayor, has fought pretty hard for this for a number of years now.
Absolutely.
And it's very pleasing to see that we've been able to, put forward a reduced amount of spend in that space. There's a pathway to enable in the hope of securing a large capital infrastructure project like a new round ball facility in the future. I mean, it's still a long way away. We know we need other funding, but there's a pathway that enables us to do that. It includes a 70% for the primary production sector in terms of a differential, continues to support investment in capital works in terms of the commitment to renewal funds, supports careful planning for external pressures that affect the delivery of all our services. It deals with rising costs, including fuel and materials, and it makes prudent planning even more important. Council must preserve the capacity to maintain infrastructure, deliver projects and meet community expectations. And those expectations, Madam Mayor, is that we maintain the same level of service. It also allows continued investment in assets and works that underpin community life, and includes initiatives such as street sweepers, replacement of plant and equipment that maintains our roads and gravel roads out within the council, and all of our infrastructure that's used by the sport and rec sector. The budget supports the responsible management of council assets, continued investment in capital works and careful planning for the external pressures that affect delivery, in particular rising costs, which I've already mentioned, fuel and materials, Make it even more important that council plans prudently and preserves the capacity to maintain infrastructure, deliver its projects and meet the community's expectation. Look, it is a draft. It's quite conservative and I'm happy to put it out there.
Thank you. Is there anyone who wishes to speak against the motion?
I think the seconder gets to speak first, Madam Mayor. Point of order.
I'm chairing the meeting, Councillor Noski. I asked whether anybody would like to speak against the motion.
Yes, I would.
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, as I have said, this is the 5th year now that this budget will include the collection of an extra $3.5 million from ratepayers over and above what I believe Council had any proper right to collect in 2022. I was going to move an amendment that we adopt a draft budget with that $3.5 million taken out of the income side, because I simply believe that our community can't afford it. Ours is one of the poorest shires in Victoria. In the 2021 census, our mean total household income was in the bottom 18% of the state. Compared to the state averages, we have significantly more residents aged over 65 and more households classified as low income than the state averages. And yet, over the past 20 years, this council has increased rate collections more than any other council in Victoria. This year, we're doing it again when there is a looming cost of living crisis that is going to affect our community. We're talking about the fuel prices. What about all of these people with their cost of living? Analysis that's printed recently suggests that between 2021 and now, the Shire's mean household income has actually fallen 4 to 5%. But in those 5 years, Council has increased its rating charges collections by 38%, from 22 million in 2021 to 30.3 million this year. Believe it or not, our residential rate is now our average residential rate is now the highest of all the 5 rural states in southwest Victoria, between 10 and 31% higher than those around us. Our mean total household income is the lowest of all those 5 shires. In short, this continues the practice of the last 5 years or 4 years of charging higher rates from a community than it can afford when its incomes appear to be falling on average across it. And my concern is that when you look at how this rate increase was justified and allowed, it's because in 2016-17 we made a very simple change to the budget structure. Up until then, our budget structure had been a differential rating system or structure. In 2016-17, in the budget documents, the words council differential rating structure were amended to read council adopted a uniform rate. But we didn't change the underlying rating structure. We just, and by doing that, we created the potential for 16.5% increases in rate collections at a future time of council's choosing, and they chose to do that in 2022. But they only did it, in my belief, is because this council put misleading and deceptive information, in fact, to the Essential Services Commission in 2016-17.
Your 3 minutes have expired.
Thank you.
Can I
Councillor
move
Pepper?
that he can have, the Councillor Noski have more time, Madam Mayor, to
Move an
finish?
extension. Is there a seconder for the mover of the extension? Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Noski. There's no seconder, that passed. Councillor Pepper.
I'd like to speak against it too,
That's
Madam
fine.
Mayor, if
That's
I may.
fine. You wait.
Righto.
You can wait, please. Seconder, Councillor McDonald, would you like to
Thanks,
speak
Madam
to your
Mayor.
motion?
Look, this draft budget really is more about not just next year. It's not just about the next financial year. This is about building the future of our community. and ensuring council remains able to deliver the services, the infrastructure and support our residents in what they rely on us for. It reflects a long-term view of responsible governance by protecting community value, preserving delivery capacity and making decisions that strengthen this municipality over time. This is a budget focused on planning well, building well and supporting a strong, connected and resilient community in the years ahead. I ask that we move ahead, we move forward.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Councillor Pepper, you've indicated you'd like to speak against the motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, I believe that this is a major issue in our community, and I think that when you look at our last election, as councillors, Councillor Noski and myself campaigned majorly on this, and we got well over 20% of the primary vote. And there's two other councillors that voted against the 22 budget, and you bring them into it, there was well over 50% of the primary vote went to the top first four councillors. And so I believe that it is an issue amongst the community. And I think that in the times that we're in at the minute, we've gone through a couple of years of drought-like conditions. Our community's doing it tough. We've got the fuel expenses now on top of it. We sit here as councillors and say that we're here representing our community. Well, I think that we should put actions speak louder than words. And I think that this needs to be taken out to help our community more so in the long term. It's our responsibility. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Pepper. Is there any other councillor that wishes to speak for the motion, please? If there are no further speakers, I'll move the motion. The motion as tabled on page 27 in its entirety, points 1, 2 and 3, have been moved by Councillor Carr and seconded by Councillor McDonald. Those in favour? 5. Those against? 2. Sorry. 2. Sorry. Do you want?
I want a division.
You want a division?
Yeah.
That's fine. We'll call a division. Those in favour? Thank you. You're right, Louise. Thank you. Noted. Those against? The motion is carried. Thank you. Thank you, councillors. We'll move on to item 9.
Madam Mayor,
Councillor Noski.
before you go on, if I may, I stood in in the election 2 years ago because I thought
Councillor
I could make...
Noski, please be seated.
Well, I'll do it another way, Madam Mayor. The CEO, there's my letter of resignation to the council. You say we were given opportunities to talk about that rating decision.
Thank you, Councillor Noski.
We weren't.
Thank you, Councillor Noski.
Good on you, Councillor Noski.
Congratulations, Councillor Noski.
Good on you, John.
Shame on the rest of the council.
We'll move on to 9.6, which is a really important our community grants round 2 program for 2025-26. This is when we allocate the funds to our community for their projects. There is
Councillor Pepper, I'd like to declare a conflict of interest.
You like to declare? Do you want to just step into that room there, please? Thank you. You're quite right. Anybody else had a conflict? Oh, there's lights over on the other side there, Councillor Pepper. It's dark in there. You'll find it. You'll find it. Thank you. Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Community grants, round 2, 2025-2026. The report table to council tonight
relates to round 2 of this year's community grants, with a total of $130,400 available for allocation this round, which included the incorporation of the ageing well category for the first time. A total of 44 applications progressed to assessment, with requests totalling $96,645.75. Of these, 41 applications were deemed eligible, with 40 recommended for funding. The total recommended allocation for this round is $79,994.65 in cash funding, with $775 of in-kind revenue support. All applications were assessed against Council's community funding and support policy and are presented to Council tonight.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Councillors, are there any questions in relation to this item? Councillor Carr.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, I noticed we're undersubscribed. Is there any reason why we didn't get as many applicants this time round as we have in the past?
How long's a piece of string?
Everyone needs community grant funding, surely.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. The application process extended for a period of time. We received that many applications, it was certainly promoted. There's obviously opportunity for us moving forward to promote that a little bit more. I think predominantly historically, round 2 has seen less applications. And like I said, there's real opportunity for us moving forward to really jump on that with round 2 and make sure the entire community is aware of it if they weren't. But yeah, unfortunately, 44 was the total.
Thank you. Any further questions, councillors?
No.
If not, there's a recommendation, on page 30 and 31 for consideration. Councillor Carr.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. I'm happy to move the recommendation in its entirety, and that's on page 30 and page 31. I won't read them all out.
No, thank you. Councillor Angelino.
I'll second it, thank you.
Thank you. Second by Councillor Angelino. Councillor Carr.
Yeah, look, Madam Mayor, community grants is probably one of the better things we get to do as councillors, and our volunteer, non-for-profit, grassroots community groups, you give them $1, they turn it into 3, they turn it into 10. They really are just the lifeblood of our community. You have a look up here in Casterton, in this particular round, like the Casterton Sandford Football Netball Club, fantastic organisation, we'll be able to give them $5,000. Casterton RSL Sub-Branch Inc, Sandford Mechanics Institute. What else have we got? We've got the Casterton Playgroup as well, $398. So,
Casterton Senior Sets.
Casterton Senior Sets, Casterton Bowling Club. So, yeah, look, obviously it went to many other locations within the Shire, but Casterton was well represented in this round, and I encourage all groups to apply each time, even if you weren't successful last time. Please apply next time, because it is in the draft budget and it will continue to be for the foreseeable future.
Thank you. Councillor Angelino.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'm also happy that all these groups have got this money, and also is that we've had another area where it's ageing well, where we have groups that need this money for lots of different things that we figure just run-of-the-mill things, but it just helps all these groups motivate and move on, and these volunteers, it helps them give them some support that they need to move on and develop. So it's a great thing for all the groups that have put in, and we support.
Thank you. Councillor Jowett.
I'd also like to add my words to this, that this is a great example of our council rates at work, giving back to the community. I mean, if we didn't have this kind of money to be able to give back to our community, these groups would all suffer. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, the motion has been put by Councillor Carr and second by Councillor Angelino. Those in favour? It is carried. Councillor McDonald, you'll get Councillor Pepper. Thank you. Thank you for reminding me, Councillor Pepper. We'll move on to 9.7, the Audit and Risk Committee meeting minutes of the 5th of March. That's mine.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. This report presents the minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee meeting held on the 5th of March, together with the committee's biannual report. The committee plays an important role in oversight of financial management, internal controls, risk, audit and compliance matters for the organisation. Receiving these minutes supports transparency for council recommendations provided before you.
Thank you. Any questions, councillors, on the minutes? No. There is a recommendation there on page 33 and 34. Somebody prepared to move. Councillor Angelino.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move the motion that the council receive the minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee held on 5th of March. 2, receive the Audit and Risk Committee biannual report for the period of 1st of July 2025 to the 31st of December 2025 in accordance with section 54(5)(b) of the Local Government Act 2020.
Thank you, Councillor Angelino. Councillor Jarman.
I'd like to second that motion.
Thank you. Councillor Angelino.
Now, thanks, Madam Mayor. This, I've just got on this committee, and the work they do is incredible. We have a lot of people that go over all the departments, and it's just great that we monitor what's happening, and then it gets back and we it's just it's a good thing that we have this body that helps us to do all the work we have to do.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Angelino. Councillor Jarman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, this Audit and Risk Committee provides a vital function in providing oversight to everything that the council does, and I don't think I have any further to add.
That's right. The independent members are very, very good, and they have a really good skill set. So our charter is just quite incredible, the amount of audits we get through in 1 year. All right. The motion has been moved by Councillor Angelino and second by Councillor Jar. Those in favour? It is carried. Right, we've done the Strathdown drainage. Is done. There's no urgent business, councillors, and we'll move to question time. We do have a few questions. Questions for this meeting are submitted to council under our governance rules that were adopted in January 2024 by midday on Monday. Councillors, the first question we have is from Mr. Andrew Nee for the President of the Portland Football Netball Cricket Club, asking... Councillor Carr?
Can I declare a conflict of interest,
Sure.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, thank you.
I'm a life member of the Portland Tigers.
Okay.
Active life
You
member.
can go out to the room here too. Anybody else needs to declare a conflict?
Yes, Watson.
That would be a conflict.
Okay.
Thank you. You're a sponsor of the club. Thank you. Thank you for leaving us a quorum. Thank you very much. You go and chat out there. Right. Thank you. Anybody else? Please don't leave the room. Please.
Oh, is this another family member?
What's that?
Is another family?
Ah, dear. Welcome. Councillors, we have a couple of questions here from the President of the Portland Football Netball Cricket Club, who's asking the following questions. Council's master plan for Hanlon Park 2008 identified the need for installation of a playground within the netball court precinct. The Portland netballers have been working at fundraising to make this a reality since that time. The club has now accumulated funds to ensure this project can be achieved and has advised council. First question, why is it now that council has no desire to carry through with its vision for a playground at Hanlon Park in the netball club precinct? Councillors, we adopted in 2019 the Glenelg Open Space Strategy, which preceded the master plans for Hanlon Park and a number of other of our sporting and rec areas. The Open Space Strategy does strive to have 80% of residential communities living within 40 metres of an open space and within a reasonable distance to a playground. And the existing playgrounds in Portland CBD Central achieve this. Our asset plan, of course, promotes renewal, not expansion. So based on current needs, there is no need that council sees, and there's no evidence that we need an additional playground in Portland Central. Second question is, why is council insistent that we as a club take responsibility of the purchase and liability of the playground? Installation of the playground at Hanlon Park is not a council project, and if it's being proposed by the club, council is the Committee of Management for Island Park and must issue a Crown Land licence, which will outline the conditions, including maintenance and inspection. The club has been previously supplied with all this information. And the third question, why is council making the club enter into a lease agreement for the land that playground sits on? And that's why we're the Committee of Management, and that's our responsibility on behalf of the Crown to issue a licence. That feedback will go back to the club. Tony Tennell, who is the District Governor-elect from Rotary Casterton, asked the following question.
Just get the others back in.
Sorry, yeah, you can bring them back, thanks. Thank you. They finished chatting over there.
No, it's okay.
Okay. Next question. Tony Tennell is the District Governor-elect for the Casterton Rotary Club, has asked the following questions in relation to the Casterton Railway Station precinct. The Casterton Railway Station building is to be renovated. We have been waiting several years now. Are you able to update me on when this will happen, please? The station building renovation is being led by VicTrack. Council understands that VicTrack is progressing the necessary approvals and planning, and assuming the successful completion of the renovations and activities, it is anticipated to take place at the railway station to ensure it is well maintained and active. The future use of the station building will need to be investigated. Any activation would likely depend on the interest and the capacity of user groups in conjunction with VicTrack. Council did a feasibility study on the Casterton to Branksome Rail Trail back in 2018, and then announced $250,000 funding a few years back to start the project. Can you please provide an update? Yes, you are right. The feasibility study was completed in 2018. And Emma Keeley did announce funding of $250,000 for the rail trail, but unfortunately that was dependent on the National Party being elected to the Victorian State Government. However, under the Local Roads and Community Infrastructure Funding, Council has delivered railway precinct activation, including pathways, all ability access and the children's playground. I'm happy to follow up further on that, Tony. Mr. David Hadlam, as he relates to Australia Day. Council activity reports in January given at the February Council meeting were scant with one exception. The Mayor did not mention that she attended the Nelson Australia Day celebrations along with nearly 2 others in the tiny township. This demonstrates how proud Australian citizens are in this country. Why does Council keep such a low profile on this event to the extent that not even flying the Australian flag? All Council offices are closed on Australia Day as it's a public holiday, and Council hasn't flown our flags at our buildings on Australia Day for some time as the offices are closed. Flags are flown when our offices are open. The Portland Aerodrome. I believe there is a figure of around $200,000 or so in the budget earmarked for operations of the Portland Aerodrome. This aerodrome was closed to operations for part of the summer. What problems have been encountered that have required so much expenditure, and why is the use restricted at a time when fire bombers and air ambulance may be needed? The annual budget supports essential services, staffing, facilities, infrastructure maintenance, technical inspections and compliance audits and assets renewal. During the summer, sections of the pavement experience pavement bleeding with temporary closures required to protect the surface. Remediation is planned for the next financial year. Importantly, access for emergency services, including air ambulance and fire response aircraft, was maintained during this period. The Caston Airstrip. This airstrip was built largely by voluntary labour and is a valuable community asset. The part of aerial firefighting plays in fighting fires is a very important one, as is access to air ambulance. What plans does Council have for the future of this important community asset? The Caston Airstrip is a valuable community asset with an important role in supporting emergency services, including aerial firefighting and air ambulance access. Recent sealing works at the northern end of the main runway were completed in partnership with DECA, the state government, to improve aircraft access and operational efficiency. Council will continue to work with DECA to maintain the airstrip. Mrs. Margaret and Mr. Dan Mitchell of Narrawong asked the following questions. At the March Council meeting, our neighbours asked if after implementing C106, which was the planning scheme amendment, councillors, 106, was implementing C106, council had taken the planning panel's recommendations for further strategic planning to identify properties where rural living was more appropriate. I think they mean further strategic planning to identify properties where rural living was a more appropriate zoning for the future. Council's answer stated there was a statement in the planning panel which said further work is required to properly assess if any residential conservation zone 2 should be moved into zone 2 of the C106. Land should be strategically identified for rural residential purposes. The first question is, can council inform us why the words proposed to be farming zone 2 in the C106 were added to the wording? It was not intentional to mislead anyone. It should have been clearer that the section in brackets was not a quote. Can council inform us why it's described the paragraph further work is required to property access if any residential RCZ2, residential conservation zone 2 land should be strategically identified for rural residential purposes as being a statement in the planning panel report where on page 22 of the report is specifically written that one of the 3 conclusions reached by the planning coming when reviewing the amendment recommendations for changing their CRZ2 land in rural land. The panel independently determined what recommendations they would like council to consider. Council is absolutely under no obligation to undertake those recommendations. In this instance, the 3 including points you have outlined were not included as recommendations. Question number 3, councillors, please just bear with me. You will remember I got into trouble for not reading the full question. I'm trying to do my best to do what is needed. The third question. Can council inform us why it has not acted on the planning panel conclusions and why it believes this conclusion does not apply to RCZ2 enclave in Narrawong when it was reached in response to two submissions to the planning panel that came from Narrawong landowners in RCZ2 zone land, and the panel chairperson reached the conclusion after personally inspecting the Narrawong RCZ2 enclave on the day after the formal panel hearing. Council's response. Despite the referenced conclusions not forming part of official recommendations by the panel, Council has investigated the former RCZ2 area in Narrawong as part of the Narrawong, Dutton Way and Elstree framework. This is yet to be adopted by Council. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, everybody, for your patience while I work through those questions. Those members of the public that ask questions will have those questions answered to them in writing. I'm assuming they were all received by email. We responded to by email. Councillors, we have a number of confidential items to attend to this evening. So on page 39, there's a recommendation there to close the meeting to the public. Councillor Carr.
Happy to move the recommendation, Madam Mayor, that we close the meeting to the public.
Thank you. Is there a second to Councillor McDonald? Councillors, it's clearly stated there the motion that has now been moved by Councillor Carr and second by Councillor McDonald. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you, everybody, for your attendance this evening. We're going into in-camera to think about who we're going to award our volunteering community awards for this year. And I invite you all to attend the Castellan Volunteer Awards on Wednesday, the 20th May, here at 5 o'clock. And I acknowledge our former Citizen of the Year, Mr. Jack Matthews, there. Thank you for your attendance, everybody. Thank you. We now need to leave. So